Speaking freedom, giving you the answers to be free. Be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Welcome to Speaking Freedom TV's Journey to Freedom show. Today we have our special guest. Of course, I am your host, Dr. Kaci. Our guest today is Miss Laura. Hey, Laura, how you doing?
Oh my goodness, I love your energy. I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Today has been an interesting day. I'm going to get some barbecue when we finish, but for right now, I'm going to enjoy this moment with you. So, Laura, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a trauma-informed relationship specialist, really helping women that have been through trauma like domestic violence, sexual assaults, things of that nature, step into their power again, especially in relationships, because we often see, and I'm sure you see this too, where we tend to get into these situations of trauma bonding or codependency and self-abandonment, just wanting to be loved. Or we do this alternative when I'm working with like entrepreneurs, where it becomes this need for perfection. So we actually avoid intimacy and we avoid vulnerability, and we do this like tough girl act.
Right.
And I help people using somatics and things like that to dismantle these walls, to really open themselves up to love and the things that they want in life.
So I think I have the tough girl act down packed at this point. But more so because just in life, when you're put into a place of independence, you have to be tough to some extent in order to really make it and not be taken advantage of. But when you talked about trauma bonding, I was just on Instagram earlier and I was listening to, you know who Tamar Braxton is, I'm sure.
No.
Okay, well, Tamar
I'm
Braxton.
horrible at names. Like names.
So she's a singer, but she just started dating a guy on a show, which is already red flag, red flag, red flag. But one of the clips that they show is they were literally, he was like, yeah, I had somebody that passed away from cancer too. And you had somebody, and I was like, if that is not the storybook line for trauma bonding, I don't know what is.
Exactly. I mean, at the core, it's like we all want places to belong. So when someone can
Mhm.
understand our pain, we're like, you too, and not
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
that, like, you are identifying with your pain, which is keeping you stuck in it, which is when
Uh-huh.
we see these things get.
And it oftentimes means that you're looking to stay there because the only way you will stay connected to that person is by being connected to that pain. And a lot of people don't realize that that's the real detriment of trauma bonding, because you're connecting based on something that you need to grow out of. So how did you get into this line of work?
Honestly, like I make the running joke, I'm an accidental entrepreneur because I got myself into such a stickle pickle of my life that there was no option but to, sink or swim. And so I had been sexually assaulted when I was younger. I mean in college, not like young, but college. And then my mom had passed away from addiction, and I thought, the bright idea of a 22-year-old, let me just go run away to Asia and, I'll go find myself. But the thing about that is, like, you're not held accountable, and that's not how trauma works. Like, you can't just run away. It doesn't work that way. And what I ended up doing is I ended up repeating generational trauma. So I ended up getting into drugs and alcohol and abusing that and abusing my body, getting into a domestically violent relationship, a deep, deep eating disorder, which led to a whole bunch of chronic illness and all this stuff. And there was this moment at 24 where I had a physical altercation with my partner, and I was questioning my life. And if sitting on the balcony, and I realized it wasn't that I wanted to die, it's just I couldn't keep living in the way that I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to say that's where my healing journey started, but it really turned into this like evolution of me then pivoting and becoming, this health coach and creating this global brand and doing this whole thing. And I became just this like perfectionist. Like I wanted to prove that I was no longer this person.
Mm-hmm.
And the real healing happened is when I built this, successful company and speaking around Asia and doing this stuff, and had no life. Like I was so sick and so burnt out, and just created a trauma bond to my business and a codependency to my business, and really isolated myself from people and just threw myself into work. And we see this often, right? It's like, okay, if you mess with my business, I'm gonna mess with you. Like this whole thing that happens, and really just like craving intimacy, craving connection, and got to the point that my health just tanked. And it was my 26th birthday, and I was delivering this seminar in front of like 200 people, and like this rash that I had been hiding that was on my back for about 8 months crawled across my entire body. And there's no way you can hide something on your face anymore as you're publicly speaking to 200 people about health and you look like a wreck. And it was in that moment that I flashed back to a conversation I had with my naturopath, and she's like, do you want to talk about how your trauma is related to literally everything going on in your life? And at the time I was like, what trauma? Like, I didn't identify with that word, which was a lot of people. But that was at that moment where I was like, I have to do something. And so I went on this whole journey of just like surrendering, resting, restructuring my business, really looking inwardly, and just kind of led myself to relationships, because I saw that's what at the root it was, of just this like how, at least for me, I learned about myself through relationships, not just even the romantic ones, friendships, familial.
Right.
Like that was the greatest growth portal. And so I just threw myself into that to really study and see what happened. And you know, it was a whole bunch of trial and error. Like, that's the short version, a whole bunch of trial and error. And
when you said that you had built a trauma bond with your business, that gave me chills. I'm talking about, because that sounds so profound, because you don't think that you can have a trauma bond with your business versus with a person. But if you use that business to kind of fill in the void for the trauma, then it is, oh my God, Laura, come on now, girl.
Exactly, though. And we see this often. Like, I can't tell you one client that I've ever worked with. I can't tell you any of the masterminds I'm in, any of the programs. Like, I don't know one single soul that didn't create their business out of not trying to prove someone wrong.
Right.
And it didn't come from abundance. It came from, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove I'm that person. And it grew from this obsession to prove. And then numbers don't matter anymore, because you're just continually outrunning and nothing hits the same. And it's not as fulfilling. And it's this whole journey of just like, you know, we lose our softness and like our relaxation, and like nothing's ever good enough. And like, if you think about it, when we grow a business in that way, it's like we don't take care of our health, we stop seeing our friends, we hardly sleep, we're doing
tunnel vision
stuff. Exactly. If that was a person you were dating, your friends would slap you upside the head. But like with business, we're like, oh no, it's totally normal. And you're like, you are like this big, you're hardly eating, your skin looks horrible. Like, what do you mean? It's like, it's the same thing. And then you're just constantly trying to outrun the actual shadows that are in your closet. And it's not to say this whole like savage energy, this hustle within, I love it. Like, that is, I am obsessed with my business.
Right. And that's good, but it's just finding the balance.
Exactly. And so now now it's like, I grow my business because why the heck not? Like, I think it's fabulous. I think it's changing the world. Like, it's been my mission since I was 4. Like, but it's not from a place of like, my business is my identity. Like, my life is my life. Like, I have plenty of space. Like, I only work 3 days out of the week, like, and still have global impact, thousands, you know, all this kind of stuff. It's like, it gets to be in a way that like, at the end of your days, you're going to eventually be 97 years old, and you're going to look back on your life. Like, what do you want to say about it? Like, what is the actual importance? And we forget that coming into entrepreneurship, right? Like, we came into it for freedom. We came into it for this like space to like have these like the freedom and the joy and the, you know, to be there for all the soccer games and do the stuff. And then all of a sudden we're like this in our phone and like not actually present for anything.
That is definitely true. So what was the hardest thing as far as your growth to get away from, and how did you overcome that challenge?
The hardest thing in my growth, I wouldn't even say to get away from, I would say to really step into, was my responsibility in it all. Really like to look at, you know, I was the one, and this is where people get tripped up, right? Because I'm not at fault for the addictions or the sexual assault or the domestic violence or any of that, but I am responsible that I didn't do anything about it. And I kept playing that narrative that I'm the victim and I'm angry and I'm going to mask and I get to act like an asshole because look at all the shit that's happened to me. And like, I get to act in this way, until it was that moment, like on that balcony, where I was like, shit, like I am the common denominator in every single situation of my life. Damn. Now what? Like, you can't neglect that. Like we
Right.
do this in relationship where like everyone's an asshole, they all cheat, it's all it's like you're the common denominator.
Yeah. So
Like
what is
what
it
do
about
you
you?
exactly what are you attracting? And it's not to say it's your fault and you're weak-minded, whatever it is that we have stereotypes. It's just like something in you finds that safe. That's how our nervous system is, right? Like our nervous system attracts everything about us, even though it's quote unquote not safe. Like I felt more safe in the chaos. That's why I would attract cheaters or domestic violence or things like that until I finally got my nervous system to actually claim safety as safe. So that was a really, I guess, taking radical ownership and then shifting what my body, because that's somatics, right? Like I can think my way out of trauma and I had been doing that for years, but my actual body was addicted to chaos. Like it loved it.
The
And so
hustle and bustle, the like just the
exactly,
uproar of it all, the
exactly.
mental part, because when you're in trauma, your mind is constantly racing. And that's what really like, okay, so let me say this. I don't like the thought of being an overthinker because really most people that say you're overthinking are people that don't want you to think. So they don't want you to figure out what they going on, what they have going on. However, sometimes you use that thought pattern and it creates a pattern to where you feel comfortable in the ruckus, in the drama. It's like people that glean to gossip and drama and things like that. It's just that it's almost like a natural habitat. It can almost even be a generational type thing
Yep.
because if you hear your parents always doing it, or you heard your grandparents doing it, and now you like, okay, well, everybody else sat around and talked on the phone, or everybody else did this, or everybody else did that. So I'm just doing what this is running after my family versus, like you said, taking accountability and responsibility and saying, okay, these are the patterns that I see. How do I change those patterns in me? And a lot of people don't have that will to address themselves or to sit themselves aside. Even like within the pandemic, a lot of people start going like, I don't want to say crazy. A lot of people was mentally challenged through the pandemic because they have an issue with one, being alone, and then the issue with being alone is sitting by themselves with their own thoughts. Like they always got to have a TV going. They always got to have something going so that it's like a distraction to their reality.
Oh, 100%. And it is something that's passed down. That's generational trauma, right? Like you learn your beliefs, your all the things until you start to question it. And you're like, wait, is this actually my own thought? Like that doesn't really seem right. Whose is that anyways? But then it is, I mean, the pandemic was a great one where it's like people didn't know how to sit. You know, that's why alcohol went 70%. Like the stock went up. It was like no one knows how to do it. And then we're sitting here thinking like, oh, well, it's just the city I live in. It's just, you know, this is just how it is. You know, everyone in my family has this. And we see this with health. Everyone in my family has this. And it's like, that's not how epigenetics actually works. Like if we actually break down the science on that, that's not, yet you have the gene, but your life choices turn that off and on. That is the same thing with what's happening where it's like everyone in my family gets divorced. Everything, like all men cheat, all these things. It's like, when are you going to start taking responsibility for your life? Like it's hard. I'm not going to lie, because once you make that choice, you can never not. Like anytime I piss my partner off, I'm like, damn it, how am I responsible for this? Like it's never he's an asshole. Like you're conscious to it, and it does get exhausting, which is why I think a lot of people don't want to do it, but it also sets you free and you get to create this new life, not even for you, but for generations to come, for your kids, for the people that you surround yourself with. Like it really is this domino effect that starts to take place.
I was telling my cousin, when you learn things, it changes your DNA. It changes your genetics because your brain and your body, even though you don't think it's a chemical thing, the information that you bring into yourself, it really does shift your DNA. And some people don't understand the concept of that because literally we have this conversation every other day. He's like, well, you know, women just genetically, they're like this. And I'm like, no, I am not that. Well, I'm not like rest of the women because I'm not like that. And he just can't wrap his mind around it. But everybody is different because of the choices, like you said, and the decisions to be better or not. And I always try to tell people when you look at zodiacs, don't look at the weaknesses and say, well, my zodiac just got these weaknesses. No, look at that and say, okay, well, what can I do? Do I see weaknesses within me in those areas? And how do I strengthen those things so they are not the weakness of my zodiac, but something that I've strengthened in me so I can beat the narrative that has been given to me? Because a lot of times the environment plays on how we see things, why we see things that way. Like you said, it's the generational conditioning that stays within us, that's ingrained in our DNA. And it's, do we make the same choice that was made before us, or do we decide something different? And a lot of people are comfortable making the same choice, but because it's comfort, they know the outcome, they know what's going to come. But if they do something different, they don't know, and they're scared of that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like on the science level of the subconscious. Your subconscious, this is why taking the leap on anything, you know, when we're like making this advancement, we're doing something, our brain's going to do that cute little thing it does, and it's going to riddle you with all the fear. It'll tell you not to do it. It'll remind you all the times it didn't work out. This is why when we go through a heartbreak, it's like, don't do it again. And we close ourselves off and we just remember this last time. And it's like, that's the cool thing about your nervous system. It's always going to try and protect you. It's going to try and keep you exactly as you are. And that's the thing about life, is like, oh, I'll do it when I'm more comfortable. I'll do it when I don't feel fear. It's like, good freaking luck. That will never happen.
Right.
Even like on a science level, that's not how the subconscious work. Your science, your amygdala is constantly scanning for danger. It's your barking guard dog that's within your brain. It is constantly just trying to protect you, which shuts off your prefrontal cortex, which plays with the hippocampus. Like it's all of these things happening in your brain at once, all because you felt something and you want to do something, and it's going to keep you in that comfort bubble. And when you can start to play with that, where you're like, oh, you sneaky little devil, like there you are again. And then you start, and it kind of plays with this whole like imposter syndrome thing, right? Everyone doesn't want to do anything because I feel like an imposter. It's like, of course you do. You've never done it. Of course you're an imposter. Like, of course you freaking are. You've never done it. Like, every one of us are an imposter when we're trying something new. Like, if I went skateboarding, I am an imposter. If I went skateboarding every day for 2 months, I would no longer be an imposter. Like, I would
because you mastered it. Right.
Exactly. And so it's these kind of habits that we start to go through, that we start to witness where our comfort, like for me, I now, like, if I'm comfortable, we're in trouble. Like that to me is now a dysregulation. I'm like, this is a problem. Like we need something to, like, again, addicted to chaos a little bit still. Like it's this part where it's like this.
It's the difference between bad chaos and good chaos.
Exactly.
Because the two things that came to my mind, the difference is sometimes I feel like if God wanted me to be comfortable, like when I'm comfortable, that means that I've arrived at where I'm supposed to be in my life. But as long as I'm not there, then I'll never be comfortable, because when I get comfortable, I'm gonna be chilling and not doing anything. And then I forget what else I was about to say.
No, I love that. And I mean, it's even bringing faith into this, right? Like, faith is blind. You go back to the Bible, you go back to he literally would tell the disciples to just go and like trust and faith. Do you imagine, like,
just do it?
There was no plan. They were just like, go into the desert. And he's like, yes. And I'm like,
so
okay.
This was the second thing, is figuring out real fear versus the illusion of something bad happening. Because like you said, everybody has the illusion of all the bad things that could happen.
Yeah.
But there's only a small percentage of the chance that there's a real fear-based, like, where, okay, you might need to be scared here, because you really do have to learn how to navigate your own internal instincts and learning to trust yourself. I think that's been the hardest journey for me, because I was so used to people telling me, well, nah, and nah. And then it's like, I'm questioning myself. Like you said, you get in a relationship and you do enough bad ones, you be like, well, wait a minute, do I make good decisions now? And it really is not you not making good decisions, but a lot of times people trick you. They hide who they really are to get close enough. And then when they feel like they got you, then they tell you who they are up under all of that. And a lot of times we become fearful and untrusting. And then if you listen to the right people, to the right portions of the Bible that tell you don't trust yourself, don't trust your heart. And it's like, no, align your heart with what God is saying, and then you can trust your heart. Because it's not that if you don't trust yourself, then who the hell are you going to trust? You got to eventually learn to trust yourself, but it's learning to be in alignment with what your soul purpose is. And that means that it might not be the same as yours or somebody else's. You got to learn to trust your inner Christ in order to really be aligned. And I think that people lack the ability to trust that portion of them. How would you suggest that people grow into that trusting of their own self?
Yeah, so it's trusting your intuition. When you've been through trauma, you don't really have an intuition. Like that's a thing where it's like it's so easy to say like trust your intuition, trust your inner guides, and it's like last time I did that, it didn't work out so well. Like I'm not gonna do. And this is where we do in the beginning stages of healing trauma, we need routine, right? So you start to build this. Like for me, when I was first coming out of addiction and domestic violence, my thing to this day has been I make my bed every single morning. And from growing that, I started to grow this confidence that I keep my word. Now, if I say I'm doing something, my word is freaking law. Like unless something major comes up, like my words are stronger than my actual writing on a piece of stupid little paper. Like that's the commitment I have for myself. And so we're working towards that. And so when it comes to trauma, it's like trust your intuition. It's really just trust the patternings that you're putting in place. So can you keep your word? Do you start to build this? Do we have structures in place to actually get your nervous system balanced again? And then the funny part about trauma, and then we get to the second part of trauma recovery where it's like now we dismantle all of that and we go with your intuition. And now that you've built up this vortex around you that's safe, so that we can trust your decision making. That's how mine was, where it was like I was so strict with health. I had my routines, I had my things. And then it was like, okay, but can we trust ourselves to go play? Can we trust ourselves to actually not have a routine? Like, and that's terrifying. Like that's something where you're like, oh my God, coming out of that, it's like when your kids and they're like going and you're like, oh, I can do this. And you're like, go run. And they're like checking back, like terrified about it. But then all of a sudden they're running around, you need a leash. Like you have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
But it's the same thing with healing trauma. So like, I get it if anyone's listening where it's like this frustration of like, stop telling me to trust my intuition. I have no idea what that means. And like, I don't even want to because it's like, that's okay. That's okay at the beginning. That's where routines come in. And then once the routines become so like you wake up and there's not even like a second thought, it doesn't feel like a chore. Like you have this system in place. And then you get to start to work with, okay, what is my body actually feeling? Okay, is that from this current situation or is this from past situation? And this happens with dating. When you start to actually date the nice guy, you don't trust them. You're like, you're too nice. Like you're going to screw me over, like all the things. And we think it's boring. And then we self-sabotage and we escape it. Like all these kind of things start to happen. And that's your nervous system. You're like, is it really boring or is it actually just safe?
Right.
And is this like not just like tickling your fancy for a second? It's like, because you're addicted to the quote unquote passion. It's like the passion comes over a while. Like the first hit of adrenaline, that's probably your trauma bonding past narrative situation. Out in the moment, I wouldn't trust that one right away. But like the things that we say are boring is like, yeah, sometimes they are. Sometimes things aren't a match. But when we're entering into situations like that, where it's like, I've been burned before, it's like, it's a slow burn. Like that's okay. Like when you're in partnership, it's like, it doesn't have to be this like quick Amazon Prime type of situation. It's like, it can be super, it's okay. Like it's okay to have this slow thing start to burn till you get this trust with that person. And then you can invite them in and like actually start to be intimate and get to know them and whatever that means for you. You know, it's getting.
And trust is not instant. That's the one thing that people have to, like, I think I used to be like, well, I trust you until you give me a reason not to. And that's cool to a certain extent, but really it's not, because my logic behind that is because I don't want to be so guarded to where every time you do something, I'm like, wait a minute, you're doing something. But at the same time, it's not giving somebody so much of a leash to where they can hurt me, trying to trust them to be something that they haven't shown me that they're capable of.
Exactly. It's earned at the end of the day. Like, yes, we can believe kindness in humanity. Like, that's the difference. Is like, I can believe that you're kind, but I still don't trust you. Like my partner, it took me, we play this game where it's like, how comfortable are you? For like 4 months, I was like, I'm still a 4. He's like, what the heck?
So how did you work through that?
I mean, it just kept practicing. I knew it was my own stuff. And I have my own practices. I have my own therapy. I have my team of healers that I have, you know, like I know my brain has some stuff that we are working through continuously. And so I can sit and I'm like, is anything actually wrong? No. Am I looking at like his surroundings? I'm looking at like all of his friends who are friggin' incredible human beings, how much everyone loves him. I'm like, yeah, you're pretty good. Like everyone that's ever hurt me literally had 0 friends. Like, let's look at the environmental cues. Let's look at things going on. Let's see the consistency. Let's see how you show up. I'm like, I'm not testing you. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to protect my heart a little bit. And it's going to be a slow burn. And thankfully, and this is what happens, right? Like our relationships are a mirror. So my partner was the same way. He's like, I'm all about the slow burn. I haven't been with anyone for 6 years. Like this whole thing, like I'm just trying to find if it's a right fit. I'm not ready to jump in. I'm not into, and I was like, you're a match for me. Like we are a match for every single relationship in our life. And so that's always the fun part. So when like my last partner, when he cheated on me, I was like, oh, why am I a match to that? You know, I was like, that's interesting. That doesn't seem like it'd be in alignment for me. But then I did some inner thinking, inner like healing. And I was like, oh, it's this unavailability that I feel from the masculine and from my father and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so it's always looking at our relationships being like, it's this mirror. Like, how do I want to move forward? And we get this reflected back. And so that's always a fun way too when we're trying to build intuition. It's like what's being mirrored back to you. That is a key indicator of what you truly feel safe around and what's showing up in your life. And unfortunately, a lot of the times that for people that have been through trauma, that's like manipulation or that's you know, lying and what have you, because we don't have a sense of worth yet. And so once you start to build that, you'll see these like nice guys coming in and they're like, that's fine, we can be slow. And I'm like, what? Like my partner did not kiss me until the third date. And he like, it was, I was like, this is weird. Like it, and that sounds so
so used to
but
men
I was
coming on strong.
Exactly. And so I was like, it's so okay. I guess the stuff we're doing is working. Like it's like you can just kind of gauge the reactions of different people that you're around. And it'll be a good like check engine light to really see where you're at.
So how has the struggles you face changed you as a person?
I mean, I'm not even the same person I was. It's so interesting to me to like, I went to my friend's high school. One of my only friends that I still have from high school because I lived in Asia for 6 years, so it was just
right disconnect. Right.
Exactly. But I went to,
and that don't mean you got no drama or nothing like
that.
No,
not at all. I went and I went to her wedding from high school, and it was like it's just so interesting to like see that old version of Laura who's like slamming shots and getting in fights and like doing these things, and like I'll like get those like Facebook notifications. I'm like, who the heck is this woman? Like, what? It's so cute. Like, you're so cute. Like all these things. And so, I mean, that evolution and to be able to now have, you know, the career that I have, the home that I have, honestly, I couldn't even vision board the partner that I have. Like he wasn't even on my vision board because I didn't know someone like that could freaking exist for someone like me. Like it's bananas. And then like the friendships I have, the health I have, like I don't have any health issues anymore. It's just everything. Like it's bananas. I didn't think it was.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kaci. Not your typical clinical doctor. I am an ordained minister, but not your typical minister. I am also a certified life coach, love coach, sex coach, solution focused coach, transformation coach, and more. I have a whole lot of information that I would like to help you grow with. And I hope that soon I can help you be the best you that you can be. Confidence, spirituality, and purpose. That's wholeness, complete.
Even an option, but also I knew in my soul that that's what I wanted, which makes sense that ultimately I just kept trying, you know?
Right. So, would you say that I'm thinking because I always think if there is a me that wants certain things, then there has to be another person that also wants those certain things. And it's just a matter of time and allowing the time for me to meet that person versus getting like a stand-in. It's called the hold up theory in my book, Spiritual Human Behavior, because it's like getting a placeholder. And a lot of times you get a placeholder or you put it in the atmosphere, what type of person you want. And then the placeholder shows up to see, do you really know how to decipher what you really want versus what I'm going to present to you to make it look like what you said you want? And then the other part is understanding what we want for real and what thinks or what we think or seems like a good idea. Because a lot of shit that'd be like, oh, that now that might be fun. But then the reality of it is like, no, you don't want that in reality. But the thought of it is at least entertaining. Do you deal with that at all?
Oh yeah. I always say how the universe is a kinky. Can I swear on this show? Okay, I always say how the universe is a kinky motherfucker because it will always give you a lesson and a test, right? When you think you
Right.
got to figure out, it's like, try me. It's like every freaking time. And yeah, it'll be like, oh, I can do, and we do this. We do this a lot because we don't know how to be by ourselves. We go back to the COVID conversation, right? We don't know how to be by ourselves. So therefore, we're going to spend time. And then all of a sudden, we marry the person we were spending time with. And then we're confused why we're so like, we didn't go in a path. And all of a sudden, we're not doing the career that we wanted. And it's like, we're just doing the thing. And we forget that we're the artists of our lives. Like, we create literally everything. It's a choice. And it's not to say every choice is right or wrong. Like, I really don't believe that life is just this like binary thing that everything, it's just like you make a choice. And I don't believe there's like one soulmate and one thing. I believe like there is alternate realities of like me still doing drugs and like being in that reality like that. If I didn't get sober and I didn't do my thing, that's still an option, you know, but because I chose this path and I went to Asia and then I chose this path and I chose to do like a single girl summer traveling and then I met my partner and it's like, could I have met someone else? Of course, I trust my capabilities. I trust whatever it is, and I'm open to receive that. But it's like we have different choices, and then it's meeting someone that you go on that path with. Like it's not necessarily like this twin flame and whatever that's happening. It's like
listen, wait a minute, because twin flames are not even what they're cracked up to be. They normally bring
a trauma bond.
Yeah, I was about to say they normally bring a lot of trauma and a lot of chaos into your world, almost I don't want to say to break you, but to the point that it will break you down because it's somebody that is going through just the same amount of trauma as you're going through. And then you're thinking that, oh yeah, we got the same trauma. And then it's just a twin flame is like the slow burn of an extreme trauma bond that is hard to break away from because the trauma is so locked in to where you think that is healthy. And like you said, you get into relationships and stuff, and then you like, wait a minute, how? Like you said, how did I get here? Because I'm not happy no more. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not pursuing my purpose. And then those things, particularly pursuing your purpose, when you're no longer pursuing your purpose, that's when you start to feel icky on the inside. That's when you start to be miserable and not loving your life and regretting things, no matter how successful you are, no matter how much money you've gained or any of those things. And it's just crazy. Like when some of the things that you're saying, I'm just like, oh my God.
But it's so true. I mean, we get lost in this because we think we're searching for this twin flame. You know, like when I first met my partner, I thought I literally made fun of him the other day. I was like, I thought you wanted to be my buddy. And he's like, what, Laura? And he's like, because I was respecting you. I was like, I don't know, it's new to me. And he's like, what the hell? But it's like, it happened, but like, it is a slow burn. Like it takes time to actually get to know someone. And all of a sudden we're like, a month in and we're like, oh my God, I love them. We're moving in together. And it's like, you don't even know this person yet.
At all.
At all. And you haven't actually gotten, it takes 3 months to even get off the hormonal high that you're on. Love is actually a freaking drug. So it takes time, but we don't know what patience is. And we all love, you know, Netflix rom-coms. And it's not to say, I was actually writing about this earlier where it's like, I live my life as if it's romantic comedy. Like I taught myself how to love when I'm trying to leave domestic violence because I also didn't grow up in a house that was like shown love. So the way that I modeled it was by watching movies. And so I have this, like, I want that as in my life. And I don't think it screwed me up. It's just, you know, because it does exist. It just isn't in the way that we see it. Like it's now my life is that way. We're 7 months in, like 8 months in, and then it's like all of a sudden this like romance and fireworks. And I was like, oh, see, this is why I knew I wanted to stay. Like, this is perfect.
Right.
But we don't have that staying power anymore because we live in an Amazon Prime world. We live in a, you know, app world where like, yes, we're on a date with someone and they're also talking to 4 other people. So it's the rare and the valuable that it's this whole thing that's going on now, but it's your personal staying power. It's who you know yourself to be, how you show up to things, how you know, regulate yourself so that you can actually meet the person that you're meant to go on this journey with instead of just like, you know,
and in the course of what you're doing. Because a lot of people, they think they got to go out of their way. But if you're going out of your way, then you're going to be out of your way the whole time. And you got to stay out of your way. You know what else I think makes people rush into relationships? The narrative in church that you have to you get saved, you're single, you got to get married, and then people are getting saved, stopping sex for some people, but then they're rushing to get married because this is the next hurdle, this is the next achievement in church. And so people so quick to be like, ooh, I met somebody. Even meeting somebody in church is a trauma bond because they are not there most of the times because they got their life and their shit together. They're there because they're trying to forget something that X happened and they don't want to address it. So they want the Jesus wand to
Exactly.
it away.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
So, if there was one thing that you could change about your life, would you change anything?
Absolutely not.
Why?
No, every single part of it. Like, one, I wouldn't have the career I have now. I mean, I may have. I went to school to be like a sex therapist and like speak and like do these things, but I was like, I don't want to teach. Like, that doesn't, my thinking doesn't make sense. But it's funny. Like, my parents get a good, or my dad gets a good kick out of that now, where he's like, look at your job now. And I'm like, I know. But it made me, like would I go back to it? No, but I also wouldn't take it away. I don't wish it on my children. I don't wish it on anyone, but I don't think I would have the strength I have now. And like this, like knowing no matter what, I'm my best ROI. Like I will go all in on my life because I know I'm my best ROI. I don't think I would have that type of mentality if I didn't have the things that had happened to me and then survived them.
So what does freedom mean to you?
Peace. It's not having all of this, the pain and the worries and the aches and the fears of rejection and abandonment and disappointment and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you're just outside sitting on your porch looking at a tree and you're like, wow, I'm
Look
free.
at this tree. This
like
tree
it's
is beautiful.
literally, it's like I have everything. Like I have my breath, I have my home, I have nature, it's like I'm sure there's people that love, like it's just like that's freedom, where it's like the simplicity. The simplicity.
I often get caught up looking in the clouds. I just be like in La La Land. It feel like
All the time.
and I'm like, oh my God. Like my kids be like, Mom, you just took a picture of the sky yesterday, but do you see the clouds today? It's beautiful. And they like, girl, chill out. But
Yeah.
I literally get caught up in the atmosphere. Like I feel like every time I see anything, nothing is coincidence. And it's always a plan because I always say this, and I love to tell this part to everybody I meet. In order for me to see a red or blue bird at that particular time flying across at that moment, I have to leave at that very moment. If I leave too late or if I leave too soon, I'll miss it. But in order to be there at that moment, it's like precision. So a lot of times we don't look at our lives as though it's a precise type thing. We think that everything is by chance. What I learned in my journey to freedom is that nothing at all is by chance. Every conversation has purpose. Every conversation, every interaction, it's something that you can learn and grow from, whether it's good or bad. And sometimes it's learning not something for yourself, but learning about people, learning how to survive in different atmospheres around different people. Because a lot of times we think, not me and you, in general, people like to think that everybody thinks like them, functions like them, and we don't give account to the differences in our upbringing, in our learning habits and patterns, and all of these other narratives that really play on to who we are. And I believe that once we start healing and start addressing those things, we begin to see people and deal with people different because now we thinking like, well, damn, I know I was going through some shit. I can only imagine what they might be going through or what they might have faced. But a lot of people don't they can't tap into their compassion because they're not compassionate with yourself or with themselves. So how did you learn to be more compassionate? Like, what was the biggest thing in learning to be compassionate with you?
I mean, being at a rock bottom, it's like anyone that barks at you on the street or even like homeless, it's like someone loved you at some point, like someone misses you. And how heartbreaking is that? And there's some type of pain or there's something like, especially with addiction, right? Like you're just, I think it's wildly misunderstood. Like no one is doing that by choice. No one like chose that. It's this, you are in such a place of self-loathing that's your only escape. And to be in that space and to like, you know, suicide attempts and the spaces my brain has been, it's just, yeah, like I can't see the world the same. It's like and I've had this like notion in my head. I was this weird kid that I would always for my birthday ask to go to the state penitentiary so I could go talk to the inmates and wonder why they did the thing. I've always been fascinated with human psychology, like since an early age.
The psychology is very fascinating.
But my parents are like, absolutely no. No. And like, I think it's a great idea. But now having gone through these things, it's the same thing. It's like, it's mirrored back. I'm like, I see you so much, you know, and I see the pain and I see what you're walking yourself through right now, even if you don't want to see it. Like it's a different kind of perspective on the world for sure.
So would you go to prisons and talk to people now?
I should do that. I actually have not done that yet. I would freaking love to do that. Like
I mean, you brought it up, so I just figured.
Yeah, no, that's such a good reflection. I should do that.
I mean, that's your childhood dream, like.
Yeah. Oh my God, you just sparked a little nugget in my brain right now.
Okay, so we're wrapping up now. We're getting down to the end of the end. What advice would you give somebody that's listening and needed to hear from you?
One, you're not alone, but I don't even know if you're in a space to receive that. Two, find something to care about. You know, for me, it was my brother. Like, it wasn't even me. I didn't like myself enough. I couldn't do it. But the reason I chose to live is because I was like, who the hell's going to make that phone call to my brother? I'm not going to put him through that. And that was my like thing. And so it's like, find something to care about, because that's when we can witness that, we can have the depths of our hearts and we can have the aches and we can have this stuff going on, but we can have that one thing that actually brings delight. That's duality. Like you can hold negative and positive at the same time.
My children was that for me, because like I think the reason why I wanted children was so that I could give them the love that I felt like I didn't get completely, but then they became literally my reason for being, well, I would have sought success regardless. It is kind of in my nature, but they gave me the ammunition to be more patient, to be more kind, to be more understanding, to not be so because as you stated about yourself earlier, I definitely identify with the fighting and, you know, kind of taking that anger and hurt and all that stuff out on others. So it really changed my perspective. I'm talking about after I had my children and before I got divorced, I went through a whole, like, I was calling people that I hadn't talked to or emailing them like, hey, if I just want to apologize because da 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 da. And it really took a lot of trying to, I don't want to say fix wrongs, but address things where I knew I haven't lived up to the certain type of way that I want to move forward in. So in order to move forward, I can't go forward with all this shadow work in the back. So it was like, okay, once I address these things, once I address these people and put things in order, now I feel more confident to move forward as this loving person, because there's no way that somebody's going to be like, oh, well, she's loving, but she used to bully me or she used to beat me up. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, okay, let's address that and then move forward in love.
Yeah, that's actually what I would define freedom. Freedom is like not fearing being found out, because we're constantly being like, oh, they're going to find out that I did this lie or I was this way. Like freedom is like, I choose what I don't tell people, but not out of fear, just out of privacy.
Right.
You know, it's like, but I have nothing to fear of anyone finding anything out about me. I'm like, it's probably on the internet somewhere anyways, because I've told that story already. It doesn't matter.
Listen, I always tell people that be the person to break your own story, because if people like to have stuff to hang over your head. So if you tell your business before somebody going, especially if it's something that people want to try to be like, well, if you don't, I'm already told that. I remember when I first started on social media in like 2012, and a lot of people didn't know, what was going on. And I just started saying, like, look, ain't nobody gonna be able to come and tell y'all nothing. So when people start trying to spread my business, or like, I was like, duh, you missed the conversation, but that conversation has been had. And it really revolutionized my ability to earn trust with people and to just be secure in what I was doing, where it wasn't like, oh, now somebody found out this, let me go hide now. Like, no, it's nothing to hide. I'm very confident and comfortable with the lessons, because like you said, if you change one thing about your past, you could change everything. It could be the smallest little thing, and then your life might not be where it is today. But like you said, I believe in alternate universes. And I really believe that more so because I dream vivid dreams. So I'd be dreaming about stuff, and then it happened, and I'd be like, wait a minute now. Like, what in the world is going on? But it feels like that, like something is giving me a clue. So when I reach this point and I see it, it's like, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be. And that has really, I think that was the hardest thing for me to come to accepting, because I thought everybody had dreams. Like, I can't be the only one that's having these dreams like this. Like, there gotta be something everybody have. And I realized that no, everybody does not have dreams. Not vivid ones, or ones that they can remember. And it could be a number of reasons. They could be suppressed. They could just be like, if I wake up too fast and don't think about it, then I will forget a dream too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I've also had instances where I wake up and the dream is so vivid in my mind that I can go to sleep and pick back up on the same dream and then continue. Like, when I first did it, it was like, wow. Like, I was like, I would tell everybody, like, hold on now, I know how to go back to my dream and make it keep going. Like, what are you talking about? But it has definitely been an eye opener to really explore who I am versus what people told me to be. And a lot of times when we are in school, we go from elementary, middle, high school, and then into college. But all that time is somebody telling you what to do, who to be, how to act. And then oftentimes we get married young, and then there's somebody else telling us who to be, where to go, how to act. And then we never get a chance to even learn ourselves so we can get the right relationship based on who we really are versus who people told us that we should be. And that's what a lot of people are conflicted by, who they really are versus who people told them that it would be good for them to be.
Exactly.
So, do you got books and stuff? Tell us what you got going on.
I do digital courses. So if anyone does Instagram, I'm over on Instagram. It's Laura Patricia Martin. So ITS Laura Patricia Martin. And from there, you'll see all the courses. We're launching something every single week, basically. We have something new coming out all the time. So you can find everything over there.
And you said we find you at Laura Patricia Martin?
Yeah. So ITS. So it's Laura Patricia Martin. And that's me.
Hold on, we about to find you before we go. Yeah, my girl. So I did want to tell you that you have some beautiful eyes. I'm sure you hypnotize people all the time with them things. You just got to look at them like.
Thank you.
And they're going to be like, whatever you say, Laura, whatever you say.
That's my boyfriend.
Do you do a podcast or just a class?
I do. It's Healing to Happy.
Okay, Healing to Happy. Yeah. So I just want to thank you for being on. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
I appreciate your journey to freedom. I think that the course that you are on is going to be so dope, and I can't wait to hear you DM me and say, girl, I went to a prison and I talked to some people and it was amazing. I am looking forward to that because it's just a part of who you are. I think you have so much information and so much that you can give to people, even those, especially those that are in prison and need the help to understand why their mind functions the way that it does and how to make those changes.
Mm.
Now, do you have any questions for me before we go?
Oh, what is your definition of freedom?
Um, the ability to have peace, to really be tapped into purpose, um, to not be micromanaged. So, when I think about freedom, I really think about me being able to do what I want to do and say what I want to say and not having to worry about, oh my God, what is somebody going to say if I say this or if I do that? So, that's really the bulk of it, but it takes time to really actualize your own personal freedom because freedom for everybody is different. For me, having the relationship with my children, being able to be there for them, pick them up from school, or if they need something, they forgot something, like those were things that I didn't have. So that is a part of my purpose. And that is the nature of my freedom, is being able to pursue my purpose without any question. Like I don't have to say, okay, is it okay for me to do this? Because I've created a life to where whatever I do is okay.
I love that.
One of the biggest things for me was telling God, this is the arrangement that we have. I tell God, whatever you want me to do, I will do, as long as you take care of me and I can have fun while I'm doing whatever you want me to do. So whatever that is, I'm cool with it. Now, some stuff is uncomfortable. It's not always, like you said, it's not the comfort zone. It's normally out where nobody else is at because nobody else wants to go there. And I'm okay with that. Um, I don't even think it ever felt lonely because it always felt so purposeful that I was like, okay, well, I know if I'm going this way is because God is with me, and those people and the support that I need along that route, they will come. And if they don't, I don't need them. So that has been the basis of what I consider freedom. Like, because I'm a veteran, it changes the narrative of what um, freedom could be, because I don't have to work. So, of course, I don't have to worry about what people say that I can do or say and all those things. So, I think a lot of my freedom came from my decision to join the military and then to be out as a veteran because I really have free reign over who I am as a person.
I love that. That's beautiful. I love the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for having me here. It's amazing that you have this space for people to tune into.
I am glad that God chose me to have this space because last year I didn't think I would be interviewing people. And then this year, kind of out of the blue, it was like, you know what? Start interviewing people. And I was like,
I love
all
that.
right, well, let's
I
go.
love that.
I know it's some interesting people like yourself that I will meet. And it has been really a pleasure. It has really been good for my mental health because I've been isolated before the pandemic. I was in I was in what was it, isolation. I was already doing the quarantine before it was quarantine. That's just the lifestyle that I've lived, and I don't like to be all in the hustle and bustle of everything all the time. So being able to be here in this space and start to invite people in so that I can get comfortable talking to people. Like I've struggled with even doing one-on-one coaching because like really it's because I feel things so deeply that if you tell me your struggle, then my soul will not allow me to move on until my soul has found the answer and given that answer to you. Like, so it feels very overwhelming to try to do one-on-ones, but this has given me the ability to feel comfortable in pursuing that now. So I appreciate you as one of the guests because you're letting me know that it's possible. Even when you talk about relationships, I've been celibate for about 7 years, going on 8. Not for no religious reasons or anything like that. It was just sex was my go-to. That was my addiction. That was my thing. Like I like having sex. So stopping that, giving myself some time to get to know myself, and because I think that my vagina makes people go crazy, that contributed as well. But knowing that after that one that you can meet a guy that hadn't dated or been serious with somebody for a long period of time, it gives me hope. So thank you.
Of course. And I'm excited for you. That's incredible. A whole self-love journey and discovery journey as always. The people you meet after that, it's just incredible.
Listen, I'm tired of being celibate now. It's time. It's time. I just got to meet somebody that I feel like I don't want to say is worthy, but some ways worthy of me. Like after 7 years, you're not just. I look. This is not the world of sex. I got another show called The World of Sex, but I go to I go to swingers, well, not swingers club, but like swinger parties and sex parties. But I'm sitting there like I can't even engage like that. I just like being around those environments, and even that is a part of freedom because I can be there and not want to engage. So that is like, yeah,
Oh my
grew up a
goodness.
little bit.
I love that. That's incredible and empowering.
It really is
empowering. Yeah.
So again, Laura, I really do appreciate you. I look forward to. I just followed you on Instagram, girl. So we're gonna be in connection. All right, everybody. Until next time, this has been the Journey of Freedom.
Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you, and we hope that we are able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening.
If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.